Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, and this is Table Talks episode 23. And today we are going to talk about training and programming and all that stuff we used to talk about all the time back in the day.
And just over some of our pulling session from last week.
Yeah, because that's what these Table Talks are. We talk about stuff while we watch ourselves pull. Works for us. People seem to like it. It's getting more popular. So last week we did a couple videos about training during quarantine because we're still in quarantine up here, or lockdown, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So no gyms. A lot of people don't have weights, and it all started where somebody asked us, "Can you get strong with light weights, or do you need heavy weights?"
And shorter answer is you can, but you definitely do need to have high intensity work in your training if you want to get strong. If you want to push your absolute strength.
Yeah, I guess there's different aspects of strength, right? So absolute strength is that's like your total force output, and then from there you've got like ways that you can express that, so endurance or power or conditioning, things like that. So the lower weights are going to help your endurance, like that expression of strength, but it's not really going to push your absolute strength in any way.
No. So we did a video about doing isometrics against an object that doesn't move, which is an alternative for people to do if they don't have any heavy weights.
Yeah, because really what you need to do is push intensity. So obviously going as hard as you can against something that doesn't move is about the most intense, kind of movement you can do. But the problem with it is that there is no range of motion, really.
So range of motion, you're only improving that specific angle that you work in. Plus or minus 5 degrees, basically.
Yeah, and for arm wrestling, that's not bad. That's definitely a good training tool to use from time to time. But as far as actually getting stronger overall, isometrics aren't going to do the trick.
And it's definitely not as specific as a real pulling session.
Yeah, so with powerlifting, it's very specific. You've got your squat, your bench, and your deadlift. So if you're trying to push your squat up, you know that the most specific thing you can do is something over 90% of your max with, a basic squat, low bar squat, like you're going to competition squat, like you're going to do in competition.
You're going to get commands, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with arm wrestling, the most specific thing you can do is a ready go with someone who's right about your weight, right about your experience level. Yeah. So it's an evenish match.
Yeah, exactly. With the intensity of an actual ready go and somehow feeling like, okay, this is for something, which with arm wrestling, it doesn't have to be for anything. You always have that
pride
of like, this is for something. So if it's somebody who's around your weight class and around your experience level, there's a chance that there's some sort of a rivalry there. You've arm wrestled this person before, or you've heard of them, or you know of them. So there's a reason for you to feel like I want to win. And that's going to be the most specific way to train. And the bottom line, again, relating it to powerlifting, which is what we're going to do all the time, you can only really do a max effort kind of a movement once a week.
Yeah. And the more experience or the stronger you are, maybe you can only do that once every 2 weeks because the damage you do is just so great.
Yeah, that would be, we've made that point before, again, in older videos. Someone like Andre Milanichev, who's like, one of the greatest super heavyweight powerlifters of all time, he can only deadlift, I think it's like once a month or something like that, or like the space he has to take in between his deadlifts is so long because the amount of damage that he needs to do, like he needs to deadlift over 800 pounds to make the workout even worth doing. And to deadlift over 800 pounds for sets and reps does so much damage to his body that he needs at least 2 or 3 weeks to recover from that, even with all the PEDs and all that kind of stuff.
So the point is you can't train specific arm wrestling pulling sessions every single day, right?
Yeah, and someone who, like, let's take the Bulgarian method, for example, which we'll talk deeper about that maybe in a minute, but the point being, like Ryan we've talked about, or John Brzenk is legend for arm wrestling multiple times a week, like 3, 4, maybe 5 times a week. Ryan says that in the beginning, right? And arm wrestle like that. But the point is, when they're arm wrestling at that frequency, they're not arm wrestling at a high intensity.
No, you just can't do it.
It's impossible, and they'll admit that too. Like Ryan's very clear about that. Most of his arm wrestling is around the 30 to 50% range is what he says, where he's doing that steaming egg thing and he's just working positions and just putting his body through that position constantly so that it adapts to just being in that position. But is that really going to push his actual strength on the table? No. I mean, he even said it when he started lifting Todd Hutchins style. That's when he got 44% stronger, It's because his body has been conditioned to do the movements, and now he's actually able to mathematically push the intensity.
Right, because you cannot push your gym lifts and your table time at the same time.
Yeah.
Like if you're arm wrestling 4 or 5 times a week, then the most amount of gym time you can probably afford to do is some light recovery work in between sessions.
And the bottom line is that on the table, it's so difficult to manage your intensity, because I'm sure I feel this way, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. For most of the practice, I feel like I'm at like 85 to 95%. Even I know at the end of the practice, I'm only putting in like force wise, I'm probably putting in like 50 or 40% even of my actual 1 rep max, but it still feels like I'm maxing out. So it's really hard to gauge how much pressure you're actually putting in, and it's also, you don't have control over your opponent, so you guys really have to work together with your training partner to not push the intensity too far.
Yeah, right? That's why we tried to take a more percentage-based approach to our training in the gym, and not our table time as much. Like we treat table time more like a skill, a practice we're trying to get better at, and then our gym time is like, okay, how do we get stronger at these movements?
Yeah, exactly. Or how do we get more conditioned? So like if we're doing a lot more ready goes and a lot harder table time, then the gym time is going to be more based around like recovery and conditioning and volume. Where if we're like for me, if I don't have stronger guys to pull with, or if you're the stronger puller in your club and you're usually holding guys, then you should get more of your conditioning from the table time and push your lifts. Like Devin, for example, there's almost nobody in Canada that can really give him a real strong, hard table time workout. Like almost everybody is still somewhat conditioning, maybe pork chop a bit, and like there's maybe a handful of guys at most in Canada that can actually give him a good hard table time, but even then he'll wear them out way before they wear him out. So in reality, what he does, he pushes his gym lifts, his multi-spinner, his back pressure, he pushes those lifts really hard, and then gets tons and tons of volume on the table, because his strength level and conditioning level on the table is so superior to his training partners that he can't actually get max effort work on the table, really. Right?
But for almost everybody else,
it would be, it can be done the other way around. So again, coming back to quarantine and the original question, can you get stronger without weights and all of that, or without heavy weights? Our answer to that would be use table time as your max effort day, right? Like try to get with people that are at your strength level or stronger than you, so that you can push to your max and get good work in, and then treat that as your max effort day, and treat the rest of the week as your recovery time. If you can only get one arm wrestling session in a week, then maybe if you're conditioned and you've been doing it for a while, you might be able to fit in another heavy lifting session, you think?
Yeah, another heavy lifting session, maybe 2. That's what I'm trying to do currently. One heavy table session, and 2 days, about 3 or 4 days after that are strength work.
And you do those 2 days back to back now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want them as far away from my table time as possible.
And you've got them, they're probably opposing muscle groups enough between the 2 workouts that, well, I don't know who that is, but we're going to shut them up real quick.
Fucking bastards. Yeah, they're opposing muscle groups, so I'm not training the same thing the same day over and over again.
Yeah, and that way it gives you the time to recover. Again, looking back on a powerlifting setup, you've got your squat and your deadlift usually 4 days apart, right? So that you've got a good amount of recovery, or even 5 days apart. You've got a good amount of recovery between them, and then you've got your heavy bench or upper body session in between. So everything's got adequate time to recover. And again, in powerlifting, most of the workouts you're going to work to a really heavy single. So again, if you're squat, bench, deadlift in a week, you're going to do 3 heavy singles in the week, but they're just different enough body parts that your CNS can handle it, and your CNS gets a good work, but your body can actually recover.
Yeah, but on the arm wrestling table, you're training your entire system, all the different chains, press inside, outside. So
and it rocks your CNS. It really does. I remember telling Jeremy Hamilton about how, like, when you go to a real tournament, you go a bunch of real heavy ready goes one after another, and the intensity of being at a real for something tournament, it does feel similar to a powerlifting meet. Like, you feel dead the next day. You feel really completely drained. And the first time he went and trained with the London guys and had a real heavy, he said he felt that, like, the next day. He was like, yeah, I did feel like like drained in a different way, where it wasn't just like I got a crazy arm workout. It's like I actually put my body through something.
Yeah.
You know.
So those next couple of days after a heavy table session are just recovery.
Should be. If you went hard enough on the table, you should have to spend some days recovering. And even guys like the London guys who we talk about all the time, they don't all pull at 100% twice a week. They auto-regulate themselves. Like when they're feeling good, they go heavy. The practice is always hard. The practice is always lots of ready goes. But that's because there's so many guys at the practice that, you know, this week, these 3 guys are feeling good this week, or this next practice, it's these 4 guys, then these 5 guys, and some guys are more conditioned, so maybe they feel good a couple practices in a row. But the point is, you can't go constantly practice after practice at full intensity. That. You need to wave your intensity a bit. That's the other thing, you know, to keep control of your recovery.
Yeah,
right?
And no one deloads in arm wrestling, do they?
Only before competition,
yeah,
supposedly,
that's about it.
Right? I mean, I guess some guys do. I know the Askies, I remember hearing Derek say that very early on, that like when he was practicing, when he was doing lots of table sessions, when everything was a little bit more open, he would, every 6 weeks, he would take like a full week off. Yeah, you know, so
that's a good practice for everyone to try and keep. It's
it's hard to do though. It's hard to do.
Arm wrestling is so addicting. It's impossible.
Yeah,
to take
it's a lot of
off.
fun. Yeah. So yeah, again, there's so many different schools of thought, but really what it comes down to is managing intensity and frequency.
And everyone has something to gain from gym time and table time.
Yeah.
Combining both is probably the best option.
Yeah, but pick what you're better at. If you're someone like Curtis Cameron, who's a gym freak, and you've got a 500-pound bench and a 700-pound deadlift, you don't really need to work on your absolute strength. You need to work on your arm wrestling strength. So like for Curtis, as soon as he got his hand and wrist to catch up to his body a bit, he became super dangerous. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum would be, somebody like his rival Yannick, who has a crazy hand from the construction work and stuff he's done. His hand is just stupid. But if he doesn't have the gym time to really push his base strength, like his absolute strength, then he's not as strong. Like what he needs to work on, what he needs to work on is his arm and his actual body strength to keep up with his hand. And someone like Curtis needs to work on his hand to make sure that he can keep up with his body. So figure out where you are on that spectrum, and the best way to do that is find out what your goal is and get your test points. We talk about that all the time.
Find out what your weaknesses are on the table, and then figure out how you can strengthen them in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Or if again, the table is a skill. So if you realize I just don't have that strength in there, so I'm gonna avoid it and work something like I'm gonna work my outside game, my back pressure, and this side because I don't really have inner elbow strength yet. It'll come from arm wrestling. I think that's why it's I think Devin's advice of learning how to top roll and learning your outside game first is actually the right way to do it, because you will develop your inner elbow strength from top rolling, because to finish with a top roll you still need some side pressure, so that'll start to develop slowly, but you're not really putting yourself in a super dangerous position. Whereas, pulling in a hook as a newer puller, you've got a lot of opportunity to get in a bad position and have something go snap,
Exactly. But bottom line here is with programming, consistency is key. So picking a program that you can adhere to and continue to perform day in and day out for a long period of time is going to be the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, it's similar to dieting or anything else. It's lifestyle, it's longevity, right? Like the only way to really make progress is to just pile it on over and over and over and over. There's no simple, quick, silver bullet way to get something done.
Exactly.
Consistency is key.
With arm wrestling, you've definitely got to arm wrestle to get better at arm wrestling. Simple. That's a matter of fact.
In the beginning, everybody, their elbows hurt and there's a lot of pain. And the only way to get over that is just to keep arm wrestling. Once you've got that conditioning down and your elbows are more conditioned, then maybe you've got some more options. If you really like table time, then do lots of table time. If you don't have people that are strong enough to help you get stronger, you might need to incorporate some gym time. But the bottom line is, if you want to get strong, you got to push intensity.
Yep, and stick to it.
Consistency. So that's the video.
If you like the video, please like the video.
Leave some comments and give us your feedback.
Share, subscribe.
Yeah, ask us another question. Let us know what you want to hear about. We'll be back. Should be back tomorrow with another video if we can get our work done today.
Oh yeah.
See what's up. All right, monkeys out.
Peace.